And this is kind of one of my favorite things to talk about is just the idea of helping students to build resilience. That I'm not sure if any of you read the book Grit, but one of the things that that uh, that is talked about in that book and in a variety of research is that you don't become resilient by not having to deal with challenges, right? That if you never have to do anything hard, you don't know how to do things that are hard. And people become resilient and tough by experiencing setbacks, figuring out how to cope with them, and then moving on. And so, what I have found with clients is that for students where not getting into the college that they most wanted to get into was the first time that something really disappointing occurred in their life, it is really, really hard for them to then bounce back from that because they've kind of had what they wanted always, and then they get sort of there's something that's out of their control and it's disappointing to them. So how do you do that? Well, you'll notice my last bullet point. You've got to set up all these mini disappointments for your kids over time, but which is mostly a joke. But I do think that there is, and I find myself doing this even with my daughter, who is much younger than a teenager, but that I think it can be really it can be very tempting to sort of push obstacles out of their way and to smooth things over. I forgot my violin. Can you come bring it to me? And it's very easy to be like, well, yeah, like if you need it, I'll cancel my meeting and bring you your violin. But in reality, when we do that, it doesn't. It actually kind of robs them of the opportunity to grow from a mistake. Right? You forgot something. Is it the end of the world? No. Are you going to have? Is it going to be fun to kind of listen to your orchestra teacher be annoyed at you today? Also no, but you then probably will be a little bit less forgetful over time. And so I think that when if it is at all possible to allow teenagers to live with the small consequences of mistakes that they make, that will it will reap enormous benefits for them, not only in the college application process, but just sort of in life in general. That, being able to deal with, I made a mistake, I forgot a meeting, or I screwed this up, or I just didn't have, I just didn't manage my time well, and I didn't do a very good job on something, or I said something that was insensitive and it hurt a friend of mine, or whatever. We all do these things, and it's painful when it happens, and you wish you could sort of redo it. And the only thing you can do is learn from it and move on and get better. And I think that allowing high school kids to do that is really helpful. An analogy is that I used to, when I worked in schools, I would say often that uh, I was at one time a dean of students, and so one of my roles was to approve field trips and whether those were acceptable educational experiences. And I used to joke that we should never ever 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 under any circumstance accept field trip permission slips late from people, because that to me it was like the perfect learning experience to sort of get things in on time, because there's no way there will ever be any sort of a real negative ramification for not getting to go on a field trip, but there will be a negative ramification if you miss the deadline on a college application, right? And so I said, learn now, learn when you forget the permission slip to the hockey game or whatever. Don't learn when the first big deadline that you miss is one that is not flexible. And so I think that allowing students to experience disappointment when it naturally occurs in small ways is really helpful over time, because because it helps to build that resilience. And I think it's also really helpful in that, and I could talk more about whatever, sort of college admission topics that you're interested in. But one thing that I have found is that students who write in their college essays about kind of mini failures that have occurred, or times that they've had to grow from a disappointment, I have found are just excellent essays. I think often they feel that what they need to do is appear sort of perfect and infallible and totally in charge. And in reality, that is not what, what colleges are looking for. They're looking for thoughtful. And so that means, you might make mistakes. You might, you know, you might be, self-absorbed sometimes, or whatever it is. And being able to sort of thoughtfully reflect on things like that can be a huge benefit to your essay writing when the time comes to write those for your colleges. And so I think that's kind of it for my, my prepared tips, and just kind of wanted to note also that we've got a little sort of special page for Kunik members, and so if you are interested, you can go to the link, and we have a couple of sort of guides that you can download for about related to college visits. And then we also offer enrichment courses for middle and high school students. And if you use this site, you can get a $50 off coupon for that, if that is of interest to anyone. So, so
Thank
yeah,
you.
so that is, yeah, thank you. And I'll